Welcome, my name is Ranger Declan.
I'm Ranger Elise.
And we are the Allegheny County Park Rangers. As park rangers, we work in all 9 Allegheny County parks. And one of the things that we love to do is teach people about the really interesting wildlife and plants and history that we have all across Allegheny County. And we also really enjoy providing some customer service. So if you're ever wondering perhaps what the best trail is to go on or how to navigate the trails using our Trails app, that's something that we can always assist you with. We also work on our trails, so that we do that to encourage water to go off of the trail, and so we can ensure that people know that they're staying on the trail by using blazing, which are those really colorful rectangles we put up all along the trails in the 9 county parks. Today we're sharing with you one of our favorite animals. This animal is a nocturnal animal. Do you know what nocturnal means? So nocturnal is an animal that's most active during the nighttime. As humans, we are diurnal. That means that we are most active during the daytime. This owl that we have in front of us is actually a skull of the great horned owl. And when you hear an owl sound most of the time, it's actually the great horned owl that most people are used to hearing. So let's take a listen to what a great horned owl sounds like. So the great horned owl is named that because it looks like it has horns on the very top of its head. Those are actually just feather tufts. Scientists think that that is so that the owl looks bigger than it actually is and maybe intimidates more than it would if it was a smaller owl. The owl skull we have in front of us shows how the owl has really interesting eyes. If I want to see Ranger Elise next to me, I can just move my eyes and not my head. So try that right now. Move your eyes all the way to the side and all the way to the other side. So you can see almost everything in front of you without even moving your head. Owls can't do that. They have fixed eye sockets, which means that their eyes don't move. Their eyes are always pointing forward. So in order to see from side to side, they have to use their neck, and they can move their neck 270 degrees around. That's almost a full circle. So we can only move a little bit, and they can see behind them by continuing the rotation of their head to see on either side. This makes them really efficient predators. We have another owl as well that Ranger Elise is going to tell us about.
Another owl in our area is called the barred owl. And it got that name because of the bars across its feathers that it helps to camouflage into the trees. But the barred owl has a very, very different call. We listened to the great horned owl's call, and it sounds pretty familiar to us. We're going to take a second and listen to the barred owl's call and see how it sounds different from the great horned owl. The barred owl is one of our larger owls that we have in our area, and as Ranger Declan mentioned, owls are great at hunting, and they are hunting at night because they are nocturnal. They use their really, really good eyesight to help them hunt, but they also have very strong talons on their feet that they use whenever they are hunting. Whenever they are swooping down, they can kind of ratchet those talons down to be able to catch their food. And when they eat their food, they do something pretty unique. So they eat all of the animal, whether it be a bird or a small mammal, a squirrel, a mouse, a mole, but they can't digest the feathers and the beak and the bones and the fur. So when the owls eat their food, they start to digest it in their stomach, and they kind of separate out all of those things that they can't eat, and they form it into a ball, and then they regurgitate or spit up that ball of fur and bones and feathers, and you can actually find them on the ground. It's one of the ways that you can know that there is an owl in the area. They are called owl pellets. We have an example of what one looks like right here. And you can actually dissect those owl pellets and take them apart and see what is inside of them. So here's an example of some of the different jaw bones or skulls that would be inside of an owl pellet. And then you can use those bones or those feathers or the fur to help and try to identify what kind of food that owl ate. We have a very small owl that lives in our area that is called the eastern screech owl, which actually can be preyed upon by some of our larger owls. So a great horned owl might actually eat an eastern screech owl, And if you were to find a great horned owl's owl pellet, you could find evidence of an eastern screech owl possibly inside. But similar to the barred owl, the eastern screech owl has a really interesting call as well. So let's take a second so we can listen to the call of the eastern screech owl. So the eastern screech owl doesn't necessarily sound like the great horned owl either. I think it kind of sounds like a horse. Its call is actually named a whinny, or a whinny and a trill. So now Ranger Declan is going to talk to us a little bit about where an owl would like to live and where it would like to hunt.
If you're looking for owls, one of the best places to look is an open field with a lot of mature trees around it. So this field behind us is a perfect example of that. So it has lower grass and also has these very tall trees that they can perch on. When they're perching up there, what they're doing is they're looking for small mammals, so they might be looking for some rodents like mice or rats, even snakes possibly, or chipmunks or squirrels, or even another smaller owl. And they're going to be looking for it in this open area using their really good eyesight. So not only can they move their neck 270 degrees around like we said earlier, but they also have really good eyesight. That eyesight allows them to see super far with really good detail. So if an owl could read and it was on one side of Heinz Field, it would actually read a newspaper on the other side of the football field. So that's how good their eyesight is. Don't you wish that you had eyesight that good? So one of the other things about owls is they have adapted their feathers to be very silent flyers. So other animals, so perhaps a pigeon, if it were to take flight, you can hear a pigeon, they're pretty loud. But you almost wouldn't hear at all if an owl took flight, even if it was right above you, because they have something called a serrated edge. So we have an example of that right here. We have an example of a other bird. So another bird example could be a pigeon or even some hawks, where when they take off, they make a lot of noise and they have sort of a flat edge on their feathers. But then owls have this serrated edge, where there's a little bit of give that allows it to break through the air and produce a really silent sound. So I'm going to give an example of that by swinging these boards around. So let's do the other birds first. And then let's do the owls with their serrated edge on their feather. So the combination of their silent flight and their really good eyesight can make them sort of hard to spot at night, but if you know where to look, then you have a good chance if you sit out and wait and try to listen for those calls that you heard earlier, or see if you see any shadows that swoop into the field to pick up their food. Those are some of the best ways that you can find an owl. Another thing you can do even during the daytime is scout out a field by looking for whitewash or white lines that are sort of dripping down on a tree. And sometimes we even find the owl pellets at the very bottom of the tree. Because those owl pellets that Ranger Elise showed you are the remainders of their meals. So once they get their meal from the field, they'll go up to their favorite perch in a tree, and that's where they'll snack. And after they regurgitate their pellet, oftentimes the pellets will be right by the tree that they're eating in. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope that next time you're out at night, you take a listen for owls and also look for some owl activity in your area.